It's hard to understand why both Democrats and Republicans both continue federally out of control and wasteful spending. It doesn't matter that our debt load keeps adding trillions of dollars every quarter, in spite of more and more hurting Americans and a nation spiraling towards economic bankruptcy. My new video will look at how irresponsible the uniparty spending spree has been for many years and what the consequences are turning out to be. Entitled, U.S. Government Spending Endangering Our Economic Futures. The U.S. government faces a long-term fiscal problem. Spending threatens to outrun revenues by such a huge margin that the ratio of public debt to the gross domestic product, GDP, could increase inexorably. High debt will erode future generations' living standard, hinder policymaking, and threaten national security. Fiscal problems have plagued the nation since its creation at specific points of time. Then there's the reality that just cutting spending will not necessarily be an easy answer to solve everything. More on that later. Besides just spending too much, two other factors are causing this. The government's propensity to print non-stop money and not backing it with tangible worth like we used to with gold shows foolishness because our money is being weakened. We've also seen the dollar slowly being removed as the world's reserve currency and expanding currencies in nations such as China, Russia, and in the Middle East. This has lowered the value of our dollar because it lowers its worth. How can this problem be solved? Just cutting spending will not be an easy answer to solve everything. Here are some appropriate questions to ask, though. Why can't Congress require balanced budgets every year? Many feel a balanced budget hurts the economy. Requiring a balanced budget, no matter the state of the economy, would risk tipping a weak economy into a recession and making recessions more frequent, longer, and deeper, causing very large job losses and hurting long-term growth. That's because a balanced budget requirement would force policymakers to cut spending or raise taxes just when the economy is weak or already in recession, the opposite of good economic policy. Any yearly balanced budget requirement would undercut Social Security, Medicare, and other programs that have built up reserves. All the balanced budget amendments proposed by Congress would prohibit spending from exceeding revenues collected in that year. They would be prohibited from using their accumulated reserves unless the budgets were running sufficiently large surpluses. Would cutting spending for things like the nation's defense be a remedy? Defense is critical for our national security. It requires technology research, new weapon systems, salaries, and so on. With expenditures in military operations in Ukraine and the Middle East, spending is thought by most to be necessary. Apparently, defense spending was only about 3% of GDP in 2023, down from 9% in 1962. Would lowering entitlements like Social Security help ease debt? When Social Security faced imminent exhaustion in 1983, Congress enacted reforms to save it, such as gradually raising the retirement age, making some benefits taxable, and increases in payroll taxes. Now, 40 years later, the gap in Social Security financing is twice as large as 1983. The problem has gotten worse in spite of the changes. In summary, the debt load of the U.S. is growing at a quicker clip in recent years, increasing about $1 trillion every 100 days. The nation's debt permanently crossed over to $33 trillion on September 15, 2023. Unless significant tax increases or spending decreases happen soon, the debt will be impossible to manage. Neither a weak economy nor a war has created our fiscal problem. Instead, the factors have been an aging population, rising healthcare costs, growing entitlements, limited revenue growth, and political partisanship. In the future, policymakers must have to deal effectively with the already high debt-to-GDP ratio with creative, larger tax and spending changes. Some have suggested that a national value-added tax might close the gap between revenues and outlays. Many, though, are not optimistic that increasing debt is going to be dealt with anytime soon. Moody's even said they expect fiscal deficits to remain very large, significantly weakening debt affordability. We'll see what happens. This is H.A. Graves.